Hello everyone, this is Ricky Fury again, bringing you another video talking about survivability in Star Trek Online. My previous video covered weapons you might want to consider using as a tank player, either for additional survivability or for additional threat generation. Now this video will just go over the super basics of the free traits that are available in the game. Now these will just be from missions and from the specializations. The other traits will be covered in a different video. So let's get down to it, shall we? Cool. Now we're in Captain's Chair. Let's get started. So of the ones in the missions, there actually aren't that many available through missions, sadly. However, all of them that are available through missions, I feel are exceptionally tailored towards either tanking or to survivability, which is very good for us. At least for all of you that are wanting to watch this video in particular. So this first ground trait is called Fluidic Antigens. Now it gives you additional toxic damage resist, and also gives you a 10% chance to remove a toxic effect whenever you're damaged by toxic damage. This trait is exceptionally useful whenever you're going to play a particular mission called Bug Hunt, which is right here. When I play a mission, I typically go on Elite just because it's besides three additional warning bugs you have to hit, it's basically the same mission as Advanced, and it gives you more of the ancient power cells. The other one in this is Living Hull, which gives you some additional hull regeneration in combat, which is, it's just a nice thing to have as well. So going from the Solnay, we warp all the way over to the Iconian War, and we go to a mission that is stocked with lots of traits called House Peg, which is a really fun and it's a challenging mission. It's a really challenging ground mission. Of these traits, the ground and space are basically the same thing. That as you're closer, your weapons will be dealing additional damage. Now, especially for space, as a tank. As I talked about with threat generation, that as you're closer, whenever you're dealing damage, you're dealing additional threat to the enemy, just by an essence of being closer. It's not just because being closer gives more damage, but just inherently being closer will make you more threatening to an enemy. In fact, that as a tank, we're always going to be closer anyway, and so the fact that we'll be able to do additional damage just by the fact that we're going to be a tank. It's just nice. There's also the one starship trait from these missions called the Best Defense, and that your attack patterns give you a buff to any healing that you're going to do for the different heals that you're going to have on your ship. This does not apply to attack pattern alpha because it will be very broken and extremely oriented towards tactical, wanting to do more tanking or just tactical, being able to survive a lot easier than they already are with a lot of their additional bonus stuff that they have. So that was moved super quick whenever they were thinking about bringing this trait into the game. Another one, I believe it's just in the New Frontiers arc. We're going up to a mission called Of Science and Portents, and in this mission, now the space set is really meant for your science guys, as well as these two traits here. Especially if you're going to be a science tank build person, the space and ground trait is especially useful to you, in that you'll get some additional regen on your ship by activating control bridge officer abilities. So things like Tachion's Rift, Gravity Well, tractor beam repulsors, tractor beams, all those other types of things, and you probably know tons more if you're a science captain. Ground trait will basically just allow you to have additional regen as well if you're acting control stuff as well. Some other classes also have different things. It's mainly science though that has this stuff. So that really helps science tanks to be a little bit more viable inside the game. Now the last one, well, I actually haven't done this mission yet on this character, but this ground and space trait are basically the same thing, and it's that it gives you additional resistance whenever you're being shot by on a side that's not the front. So if you hit on one of your side shield facings or your back, or in ground, like they have similar types of mechanic things going on too. It's just that you don't have a physical shield being shown as easily, so it's just harder to notice that. It gives you additional resistance, which is nice. It's not super great on the high end, but it's still nice to have too. So that's the basics in terms of missions. Now we're going to go into the specializations. So in terms of these specializations, we'll just go from top to bottom. For command, and by the way, all of these specializations here, the trait that you're getting from these are all starship traits. So especially like if you don't have access to any tier 6 ships, if you level up all of these specializations, you'll be able to have some different traits to choose from. I personally recommend leveling up the technical specializations that you feel that are going to be most beneficial to your ship first, because especially if you're not someone that's going to be on every single day, it's going to be hard for you to level up all these different traits fully. Like for instance, for me, I'm only on semi-regularly, and so I don't even have 2 of these completely filled out on this character. And it's for all this is why it's kind of hard to get to super end game with several characters now, just because of all of the different things that Cryptic has made it to make you have to play the game a whole lot more in order to level things up more, or at least log in daily to do your admiralty stuff. But yeah, so for command, there is improved command frequency. There's ability that we all have called fleet support that you're always able to use as long as you're below 50% health, but it also has a 15-minute cooldown. What this trait does is it reduces the cooldown to 5 minutes, and it also allows you just to activate the ability easily. You don't have to worry about a low health restriction. Just so that's just having an extra ship there is nice, or an extra ship alongside your science ships that you summon if you're a science captain, allowing you to have 4 ships instead of 3 is nice. For improved predictive algorithms, any of your weapon enhancements give you an additional 5 accuracy, and it removes the debuff on your ship. So it's like a mini attack patterns in terms of the debuff stuff that it's doing. In terms of a tank guy, you're not really going to use this really too much. However, as a science person, you might actually find uses, because all those different subsystem targeting things that you have inherently built into your ship, all those work for this trait. So the fact that you already have technically 4 of those built into your ship, as most science ships do, this is actually really nice for science ships and science tanks. For Miracle Worker, improved go the extra mile is actually pretty nice. It's just that it's hard for me personally to commit to build up this skill tree just for that, simply because Miracle Worker is more designed for the supportive playstyle. In the MMO hierarchy of you have your DPS person, you have your tank, and you have your support. And in the super theoretical, you would have your science ships that are the support guys, and they would want Miracle Worker. But still, this is a nice trait to have in that, especially because in a lot of the game today, we mainly have DPS and then a tiny bit of people who are tanks, a super even lower than that who try to go the support style. But if you don't have any people who are decently good at DPS, it sucks for you. So most people abandon that route entirely unless you're in a super insane fleet that has stuff like that, which means you have to be hardcore into the game. But anyway, it's a nice trait that gives you additional shield and hull healing, and it gives you 10 hit points whenever your hull is super high. But you already get 10 hit points from basic stuff in a different skill tree, so I don't personally feel it's as worthwhile unless you're going a full supportive playstyle. For the pilot skill tree, they improve pedal to the metal. This allows you to get additional damage based upon time that you spend at full throttle. As a tank, this actually does add some good damage to your ship, simply because as tanks, we're often going to be at full throttle the whole time, especially because we're often going to be in a cruiser or dreadnought, which already has not so great defense to begin with, so we're already going to be at full power anyway, and just trying to get our beams to go ahead and hit the enemy. And so yeah, just spending the full amount of like 20 seconds, or yeah, for the full 20 seconds to get additional a 20% damage amp to the stuff that they were pulling up. It's just nice to have passively. And as I was thinking about it, like that's a trait that I actually typically use whenever I'm not going to use the invincible trait that I had in my one build video that I showed earlier in the month. Improved non-linear progression that you get for the temporal operative. I don't ever go in reverse, so I don't see the value to this personally. But there are some of you that might be a DPS person that you might be like trying to sit and do nothing, like sitting in place. Like if you're trying to get the anchored trait going on, you might want to go back and forth a little bit maybe. So I might see some use there, but for tanks, no, there's really no use for this at all. For commando, the same problem, but in a different way. You have to be around a target for 12 seconds straight in order to get some additional kinetic damage that goes straight to them. Sure, that kinetic damage is great in that it's a zero distance ability type of thing, but it's just one instantaneous thing, and with the exception of your super large targets, this isn't going to last very long. And for that same problem with commando is with constable. This skill tree, I've had a lot of like I've been trying to think of like how and why I want to use constable. Every time I think about it, it'd be like, okay, it's only if I'm a really low, if I'm only in a really super low DPS group. But even in that case, if I'm gonna have time to level this up fully, I'm probably gonna be able to have enough energy credits or stuff like that to be able to level up my stuff to at least be mid-level. And if I'm in the mid-level stuff, I might as well be in a different specialization than this one. So I mean, maybe in the next expansion there'll be a reason why we would want to use constable specifically. But at least right now, I don't see a use for this at all. And this particular trait, whenever you defeat your primary target, this might be good. It's like it's another 25% cooldown reduction every 30 seconds. Like if this works for your super small targets as well, that might be worth it. But the problem is it only occurs once every 30 seconds. So only for abilities that like are normally 2 minutes or longer are really going to be benefited from this, and then that's if you're wanting to spam it. So maybe your science captains might find some use for this. As a normal tank, I really don't. For strategist, unconventional tactics, as a tank, I do find a bit of value for this. Simply because for normal brace for impact, your damage resistance stuff doesn't really matter too much for you whenever you get to the middle and high end for tanking. But this trait will basically allow you to still have a use for that ability. And it'll give you additional bonus all damage to self. Even as a DPS person, popping this whenever someone's getting low and you know you're probably going to need the resistance soon anyway, additional all damage is nice as well. So yeah, for me personally, for like TLDR for traits, for Starship traits, I'd first go with the best defense from the mission. Then I would go the extra mile actually as from the Miracle Worker. Then I would go with Pedal to the Metal from Pilot. If you have everything unlocked, otherwise, I mean, Pedal to the Metal again from Pilot is probably one of the first ones you're going to get because this thing is a super nice skill tree for tanks in space. As well as unconventional tactics from Strategist. And then if you have the 5th trait unlocked, maybe going with the command specialization and getting improved command frequency just for an extra ship there. As an extra guy that's just doing some extra threat and maybe might aggro the enemies a little bit, or just do a little bit more damage to help with your lack of damage as a tank. In terms of the other like space and ground traits, I mean, as I was saying with missions, for the Somley one, living whole is just nice to have for additional passive regen. Point blank shots also nice to have for more DPS as you're going to be closer. The nanite repair matrix is nice as a low DPS shield heal. Having additional resistance from restricted armor plating is also nice. And regenerative control synergy is great for science takes in particular. And then of course, just lastly, that fluidic entities as a ground trait is really nice for the one bug hunt mission in particular. So yeah, hopefully this video was interesting for you all. And yeah, thank you all for watching.